Rabbi say we're on DAF Gimel Amid Aleph, and we were learning yesterday about the actual mechanics of giving someone malchus. It's not so clear to me, but it seems from the Rivan that the administrator stands on the side of the person who's bent over, and he's, as we'll see, we're going to give him one lash on his abdomen and 2 lashes on his back, and that we repeat that cycle until we get to a total of 39 or whatever he's meant to have. The Bach takes out the first 3 words because they don't seem to be connected to anything specific. But the point is that there will be times when we have to interrupt the giving of malchus if a person loses control of his bowel or bladder, depending upon what the shita in the Mishnah is, because once he's humiliated, we stop. Amar of Sheshis Mishum Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Minayin l'ritzuya shehi shel egel. So the first question the Gemara asks is, we learned in the Mishnah that the leather strap is made out of both cowhide from a calf and from donkey hide. And you take a much longer strip of cowhide, you double it over twice, so you've got 4 strands, and you take the donkey hide and you double it over once, so you've got 2 strands, and you plait all the strands together, and that's the whip. So how do you know that it's meant to be from cowhide? The Torah says in Parshas Kiseitze, you shall whip him 40 times, and then in the very next pasuk is, do not muzzle an ox or a bull when he is grazing. And so the connection tells us that it has to be from a bull material, the whip. Now, it seems more than that, as you'll see from the continuing Gemaras. There are lessons to be applied back and forth. It could be the whole issue of not muzzling an animal is to have sensitivity. And the same thing is to remind the administrator to be sensitive when he's giving malchus, that this is a human being with genuine feelings. Okay, Va'amar of Sheshis Mishum Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, Minayin liyavama shenaflu l'fnei muka shchin she'in chos min osa. Here's another teaching based on smuchim, on the adjacencies of the psukim. How do you know that if a man dies, leaves a widow, and she falls to yibum to her brother-in-law, who's like a disgusting guy, you know, he's got filled with boils or some other kind of physical or other kind of issue that makes him really repugnant to her, how do you know that you don't muzzle her and you listen to her argument? Because the one pasuk says don't muzzle an animal, and the other one says immediately after that is the parsha of Yibum in the Torah. So you see that you don't muzzle the Yavam. If she's really upset, doesn't want to marry him, we listen to her.
Because chalitza only goes the other way, right?
Well, both go only unilaterally, just like marriage and divorce. Yibum is unilateral. It goes from the man to the woman.
I meant the chalitza is usually only if the brother doesn't want to do it.
Well, that's
the girl didn't have a choice.
That's what the Torah says, right? Usually, yibum could be bal korcha, it could be consummated, but the rabbis say we listen to her. If she doesn't want it, we don't allow it to take place. Va'amar of Sheshis Mishum Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, kol hamevaze es hamoadim ki'ilu oved avodah zara. Another smichus is that anyone who desecrates or treats in a deprecating way chol hamoed, that's what we're talking about over here, then it's as if he's worshiping idols. D'chsiv Elohei Masecha lo saselach, v'samach le'eschag hamatzos tishmar. Because in Parshas Re'eh it says, do not make for yourself molten gods. And then right afterwards it says, observe chag hamatzos. And the Gemara says that this pasuk of observe chag hamatzos can't be talking about Yantiv, because we have other psukim that tell us to observe Yantiv. So it's talking about Chol HaMoed. Okay, and you think Hashem's not looking, it's only Chol HaMoed. That's almost like a form of idolatry. Va'amar of Sheshis Mishum Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah kol ha'mesaper lashon hara v'chol ha'mekabel lashon hara v'chol ha'meid edu sheker roi lahashlicha l'klavim. Anyone who speaks lashon hara, receives or accepts lashon hara, or anyone who bears false testimony against his fellow is worthy of being thrown to the dogs. D'chsiv lakelev tashlichun oso v'samach le'lo sisa shem hashav v'goymer kari beinami lo sasi. Because in the Torah, when it talks in Sefer Shemos, it talks about not taking treifa meat and not eating it yourself, but throwing it to the dogs. Right afterwards, it says, do not bear false or idle tales. And you could also read not only to bear tales by listening to them, but being the bearer, the bringer of false tales or idle tales. Okay, next, Ushtei Ritzuos v'chulei. Then we also had 2 strands of donkey hide. So Tana shel chamor k'dedorish shahu galila alei de Rav Chisda, yada shor koneo v'chamor evus be'olav, Yisrael lo yada v'goimer. That the reason why we use donkey hide, as the Galilean rabbi explained to Rav Chisda, because the pasuk in the Navi says that the bull knows its master, the donkey knows who's controlling its feeding trough, but Israel doesn't know that. In other words, when a Jew sins, he's sort of ignoring who's the boss, right? Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu yavu misha makir evus ba'alav v'yifra misha eino makir evus ba'alav. So Hashem says, let the donkey come, who at least recognizes the master of his trough, and exact retribution from a Jew who doesn't appreciate who his boss is, Hashem, and that's why he committed the sin for which he gets malchus.
Similar to Bilam. God used a donkey in Bilam to teach Bilam a lesson. Let the stupid donkey see the angel.
That's right. Yeah, that's
the same concept.
Yeah, that's right. It's the same concept.
This is a proof for the calf also, because the ox knows its own. You take both.
It actually is. I believe the Gemara is using it for both, but there's an additional teaching for the ox because of the smichus of the previous. Yada tefach v'chulei. We had explained that the handle of the whip is 1 tefach long, but also that the administrator, when he stands, has to align it so that the tip of the whip, when it hits his back, it also has to extend all the way to the edge of the abdomen to strike that. So he's got to align it in such a way that the whip is so long, and obviously you've got different people with different sized torsos. So how are you going to synchronize it? So Amar Abaye Shma Mina Kol Chad V'Chad Lefum Gabei Avdinan Lei. So Abaye says, you see from here that the guy's got to have different size whips for different size people. So Amar Le Rava Imkei Nafish Lehu Ritzuos Tuva. Rava's response is, if you've got to be precise, then you're going to have a room full of whips. Every person's going to need his own custom-made whip. So Ela Amar Rava Avkasa Islei Ki Boy Miktar Be Ki Boy Marfa Ba. So Rava says, no, there was one whip, but there was like a loop, there was an adjustable loop at the very beginning of the whip, so that you could adjust the length of the whip according to the size of the torso of the person. Malkin oso v'chulei, so you would whip him with one hand and bring it down with your full strength. That's what the Mishnah had said. Minahani mili, so how do we know this? Amar of Kahana, we had also said that you whip him using a triple form of whips. There's 1, 2, and 3, and then repeat the cycle 1, 2, and 3. 2 on his back and then 1 on his abdomen. So where do you know this from? So Rav Kahana says, that the judge will bend him over and strike him on his front side according to his wickedness with a number. So Risha Echas Milafana. So the way the Chazal understood it is Risha Echas. Rishaso is in the singular. His wickedness, singular, means 1 whip on the front side, and Shtei Rishayos Me'acharav, and then 2 whips on the back side. Because the word mispar implies a number that's greater than 1. Ein Malkin Oso V'chulei. So we do not. What was this going on? Right, we have to double over and make it multiple ply of the cowhide. It's 4 ply cowhide and 2 ply donkey hide. Amar Rav Chisda, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Minayin l'ritzuya shehu muchpeles shenemar v'hipilo. How do you know that the leather is supposed to be doubled over? And the answer is because it says v'hipilo, he shall bend him over. Bending him is referring to the man, but we also say that it's referring to the bending of the whip. But how can you learn 2 things? The pasuk is talking about bending over the criminal. So how can you use it to apply to something else other than the criminal? In kain lichtov krayatehu mahipilo shmami natarte. Because the choice of verb is vague. Hipilo could be referring to a human being. It could also be referring to an inanimate object. If the Torah only wanted to address the human being being bent over, it would have said lahatehu or hitehu, which refers to a human being being in a bent over position. So the fact that the Torah used the hipilo verb, which is more vague, implies that both the human and the whip are bent or doubled over. Hamakeh makeh biyado, the person striking strikes with his hand, with one hand. So Tana Rabbanan ein mamidin chazonim ela chaseri koach v'yaseri mada. So the Tanakam of this brisa says you appoint people who, the whippers, who are going to be people who are weak and are very smart, because they'll know when to stop, they'll know how to gauge the person, and we don't want them to be too strong. So take a guy from the Beis Medrash who doesn't go to the gym, have him be the administrator of the Malkus. So Rabbi Yehuda Omer, afilu chaseri mada v'yaseri koach. And Rabbi Yehuda says, no, you could even use people who aren't that smart and are starkers and work out. So Amar Rava kavase de Rabbi Yehuda mistavra dichsiv lo Yosef pen Yosef. So iomart bishlam chaseri mada hanu ditzarach la'azure. Ela iomart tiseri mada mitzarach la'azure. So the first initial reaction from Rava is that Rabbi Yehuda is more correct, because the fact that the Torah needs to warn him and multiple times, be careful, don't do too much, don't whip him too much, means that we're talking about a guy who's not too wise, and therefore we have to warn him, be careful, be careful, be careful. But v'Rabbanan ein mizarzen ela lemezuraz. But the Chachamim's attitude is no. The guy's got to be smart. Who do we deal with? Who do we warn? We warn a person who is already savvy, and we tell him, listen, you know what to do, but make sure you don't do too much. That's the way, ein mizarzen ela lemezuraz. We only exhort someone who already is duly exhorted because he's already smart. Tana keshuhu magbia b'shteyada v'chushimake maka biyado echas kehechi deleisa mididei. When the administrator lifts up the whip, it's pretty heavy when you think about a 6-ply cowhide. He lifts it up with 2 hands, and then when he brings it down only with 1 hand, but lets gravity begin the process, because we don't want him to be the full sort of doler of the force. Part of it should come from Hashem as well, like the gravity is helping him as well. Okay, v'hakore kore v'chulei, and while this is all going on, we have someone in the background reading psukim to remind the person that he's getting a kapara now. So Tana Rabbanan hagadol shebedayanim kore, hasheni mona v'hashlishi omer hakehu. So the Bryce explains that there's 3 judges on the Beis Din. The eldest or the most senior judge is the one who recites the psukim. The second senior judge counts 1, 2, 3. The third, the least senior judge, is the one who basically says strike, strike. Okay? Bisman shemaka meruba ma'arich, bisman shemaka muetes mekatzer. So when the lashes are taking a long time, then you should elongate the words that you're reciting to hopefully synchronize the recital of the psukim to go with the administration of Makkos. But when the guy's getting fewer Makkos, let's say they estimated he can only get 18, for example, so then read the psukim more quickly so that you synchronize it to finish when he's finished. But wait a minute, why is that necessary? But didn't we learn in the Mishnah that if you say the psukim and the guy's still whipping, you just start all over again? So what's the big deal? Why do you have to synchronize? So the Gemara answers, mitzvah l'tzam tzem v'ilod sim tzem chozel l'tchila zamikra. The answer is, l'chatchila, you should try to synchronize it, so that you only have to recite the psukim 1 time and finish when the guy finishes. But if you're such a quick davener, you can't slow down, so then start again. Okay.
The Racham's only 13 though, so you have to repeat that 3 times to get to the 39.
But there's so many other psukim. Go back to the Mishnah. Take a look at the Mishnah. The Mishnah said there's multiple psukim, you say. Tana Rabbanan, Makar Rabba. So the Brisa quotes the pasuk that do not strike him too many times, because he may sustain a great blow. Makar Rabba v'nikla achicha leinach, and he'll be humiliated. So ainli ela Makar Rabba, Maka muetes minayin, Tamalomer lo Yosef. So that only implies that if you're giving him Makar Rabba, which the Rivan learns a full set of Malkus, a full 39, that you're not allowed to add an additional one. But how do you know that if he's only getting 18, for example, because he's got a weaker constitution, that there's an Isser as well of mitzvahs lo saseh of adding on to even a smaller amount. So imkain matam. So the answer is lo Yosef. Unconditionally, don't give more than what he's decided to. The Beis Din decides to give him. So imkain matam alomer makoraba limit ala rishono shehin makoraba. So what's the whole point of makoraba? What does that mean? If it's not telling me that it's only when he's getting 39, what is it teaching me? It's teaching me that whatever amount you're going to give him, each zetz has to be a groise zetz. It has to be a really strong whip. In other words, don't use a wet noodle and just play games. Every whip has to be quite substantial. Next, niskalkel v'chulei. We saw machlokes in the Mishnah as to whether a person when he loses control of his bodily functions. Is it losing control of his bladder or his bowel? Is it either one that makes him now exempt from Malkus? Or, that's the Tanakama. And Rabbi Yehuda says, if it's a man, he's got to lose control of his bowels for us to let him go. But for a woman, we have to be more respectful, and even if she loses control of her bladder, we let her go. But if a man were to lose control of only his bladder, we would not exempt him from Malkus. That's according to Rabbi Yehuda. So Tana Rabbanan, Echad ha'ish ve'echad ha'isha berei v'lo b'mayim div Reb Meir. So Reb Meir is the most machmir. This is actually, there's three opinions in this brisa. Rabbi Meir is the most machmir, and he says whether it's a man or a woman, its bowel is the key, not bladder. Bladder is meaningless. And Rabbi Yehuda omer ha'ish berei ve'ha'isha b'mayim. And Rabbi Yehuda, like in our Mishnah, says no. For a man, he's got to lose bowel control. And for a woman, she loses bladder control. And the Chachamim omer echad ish ve'echad isha bein berei bein b'mayim. And the Chachamim are the most lenient, like in our Mishnah, and they say either one for either gender. So wait a minute. V'hatani Rabbi Yehuda omer echad ha'ish ve'echad ha'isha berei. There's a brisa that where Rabbi Yehuda seems to contradict himself. He says it makes no difference whether it's a man or a woman, but it's the criterion is bowel control and not bladder. So the Gemara says no. Omer of Nachman bar Yitzchak shneim shavin berei. You didn't understand the brisa. The brisa is not telling you that we don't let a woman off when she urinates. It's telling you that a man and a woman are equal as far as bowel control. But if a woman urinates, that's not what the brisa was addressing. Taka Rabbi Yehuda holds that if a woman urinates, she's also set free. Omar Shmuel, kaftuhu v'ratzmi based in pater. That if they already tied him up to the post, and the guy's able to wriggle free and run away, we don't re-arrest him and bring him back. And as you'll see in a moment, this has to do with the fact that he's so meshuga, that he's able to break free from being tied up, is an indication that he really can't handle this. We've embarrassed him enough, and we're done. So meisvei, so let's raise a contradiction. Kala bein barishona bein bashnia potrinoso. That if a person lost control of his bowels, whether it's before we started Malkus or after we started Malkus, he's exempt. Nifsaka ritzua, but if the whip breaks, bashnia potrinoso, barishona ein potrinoso. Then it depends. If we've already started whipping him and it breaks, so we say, okay, you're free to go. But if we haven't yet started, we just have to replace the whip and we start. So amai lihavi karatz. So the Gemara says, I don't understand why. He's already tied up in this scenario. So why wouldn't you let him go if the whip breaks? In other words, if you're telling me that being tied to the post is enough of a humiliation so that if for whatever reason we can't continue, we don't continue, why when he runs away do we let him go? And we don't force him to come back, but when the whip breaks, before we started, we force him to go through with it. So the Gemara answer is Hasam Ratz, Hachalo Ratz. So the answer is that it's got to do with his disposition. If he himself wriggles free, it means that really he just can't take it. He can't take it. He just doesn't have the disposition to be able to endure going through Malkus. And so we have Rachmanis and we say, okay, get out of here. But if a guy is perfectly calm and he's tied to the post and the whip breaks before we even start, so we're ready to, he's ready to take it, we're ready to give it, and so we go through with it. Tana Rabban.
Art school talks all about humiliation. It's just about humiliation.
Yeah, it's
if the guy runs away, he's humiliated. If the guy's standing there and the whip breaks, he's not humiliated.
Right, so the way I understood it is not so much that he's humiliated from running away, but rather it's that could be one way of learning it. My impression from the language was that the fact that he ran away shows that he just it's too emotionally disturbing to him So we're just going to let it say, okay, listen, if you really can't handle it, gay gesundte hate, you know? Tana Rabbana, amduhu lechesheyi lakeh yikle potrinoso, lechesheyetze mi beistin kala malkinoso. So if we estimate him that even before we even start administering malchus, we estimate that as soon as we start hitting him, he's going to lose control of his bowels, so we don't even start. We don't want a guy to defecate in public because we're giving him malchus. So if that's our estimation, that even before we, just as soon as we get started, he's going to lose control, so we don't even start. But if we estimate that as soon as we finish, and once he leaves Beis Din, he'll defecate out of nervousness or whatever, of it just being distraught, so then we will give him malchus, because we say, listen, you can run out and take care of business without getting totally humiliated. Velo od ela afilu kala batchila malkin osa. And we'll go even further. If we haven't even tied him up yet, and just the prospect of him about to be tied up is what's getting him so upset, and he loses his bowel control, we tell him, clean yourself up, buddy, we're still going through with it. Shenamar v'hiko v'goymer v'nikla, v'lo shalaka kvar bebeis din. And it's based on the pasuk, because the pasuk says first v'hiko, first you strike him, and then he'll be humiliated. But if he's humiliated before we even start the process at all, so then that doesn't count. Let's go on to the next Mishnah. Kol chayavi krisus shalaku niftaru yedei krisasa. Any person who commits an avera for which the punishment is kares, if the Beis Din administers malchus instead, the malchus is actually beneficial for him, because it removes the kares, which is a great thing when you think about it. Shenemar v'nikla achicha le'inecha keshalaka harehu ke'achicha divrei Rabbi Chananya ben Gamliel. And this is all according to Rabbi Chananya ben Gamliel, who says, look, the Torah says that your brother is humiliated through malchus. So we see that after the malchus is done, even though he was a rogue when he started, he's now your brother. So you see, therefore, that malchus alleviates his distance from Hashem. Va'amar Rabbi Chananya ben Gamliel, ma im ha'over avera echas notel nafsho aleha, ha'osa mitzvah echas alachas kama v'kama shetinasin lo nafsho. So he says, if a person just does one avera, Hashem will, in some way, take away at least a portion of his neshama, either by demanding malchus or by giving him kares. So then surely if a person does a mitzvah, we know that Hashem's attribute of giving is much greater than his attribute of retribution. So therefore, if Hashem takes away a person's soul when he sins, surely Hashem will restore a person's soul when he does a mitzvah. And Reb Shimon Omer Mimakamahu Lamed, Reb Shimon says you can actually find the source text in the din of kares itself. Shenamar v'nichrasu hanefashot sa'osos v'gomer v'omer asher ya'asa osam ha'adam b'chai bahem. Because the parsha of Arayos talks all about kares, that whoever commits an erva offense gets kares. But then at the end, at the beginning, it says that a person who does all of the commandments of the Torah will live by them. So ha'kol ha'yoshev v'lo avar avera nosen lo schar ka'osa mitzvah. What you see from here is that if a person just abstains from committing averos, right, what the Torah is saying is that you'll get life. So you see that Hashem is so much more benevolent. I only punish you for proactive sin, but for passive not sinning, I'm prepared to give you tremendous bounty and blessing in life. So you see that Hashem is more benevolent than he is as a punisher. Rabbi Shimon bar Rebbe Omer Harehu Omer Rak Chazak Levilti Achol Hadam Ki Hadam Hu Hanefesh V'Goymer U'Ma'im Hadam Shenafshe Shel Adam Katz Mimenu Haporish Mimenu Mekabel Schar Gezel V'Araya Shenafshe Shel Adam Mis'avilen U'Machmadasan Haporish Men Alachas Kama V'Kama Sheyizkalo U'Ledorosav U'Ledoros Dorosav Adsof Kol Hadoros. So he brings a Kal V'Chomer from the prohibition of eating blood. The Torah says, be strong, don't eat blood. And basically what the Torah is saying is that if a person abstains from consuming blood, which is something that you normally recoil from anyway, who wants to eat blood, right? So if Hashem is prepared to reward you for something that you would naturally recoil from anyway, imagine how much more Hashem will reward you when you abstain from something that person naturally desires to do, like taking other people's things and committing sexual crimes. And there Hashem will reward you and your future generations ad infinitum. Rabbi Chananya ben Akasha Omer Ratza HaKadosh Baruch Hu L'Zakos Es Yisrael L'Fiach Chiblam Torah Mitzvah Shnemar Hashem Chafetz L'man Tzidka Yagdil Torah V'Yadir. This may sound a little familiar to you. We say it all the time. Hashem wanted to give merit, is really the pashut pshat of what L'Zakos in this context means, but it could also mean to purify. It's translated both ways, but here the context shows that it means to give merit, meaning that there are many mitzvahs that if Hashem had not written them in the Torah, we would normally perform them or abide by them anyway, because it's only human nature, right? Like don't eat blood. But Hashem wanted to increase our reward, so He gave us additional mitzvahs that we would have done anyway. And therefore, by fulfilling each mitzvah, we get additional reward. The Gemara now says, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Chalukin alav chaverav shel al Rabbi Chananya ben Gamliel. The Rabbi Yochanan says that even though Rabbi Chananya says that by getting malchus you are freed from kares, but the Chachamim disagree with that. They say if you're chayiv kares, there's no malchus, and if they give you malchus, it doesn't free you from the kares. Amar Ravada bar Ava, Amri be Rabba bar Rav, Taninan, Ein bein Shabbos liyom HaKippurim ela shezeh zedono bidei Adam, v'zeh zedono bihi kares, v'im isa idi v'idi bidei Adamu. So Ravada bar Ava wants to prove that. He says, I'll prove to you the Chachamim disagree with Rabbi Chananya, because the Mishnah says that the only difference between Shabbos and Yom Kippur is that Shabbos violation is punishable by a mortal court, and the Yom Kippur violation for the penalty is kares is punishable by a heavenly court. And according to Rabbi Chananya, both are punishable by a mortal court, because if you give a person malchus for eating on Yom Kippur, you've given him the penalty, and that's all he gets. So you see that this Mishnah does not hold like Rabbi Chananya. So Rav Nachman Omer, Hamani Rabbi Yitzchaki, the Omer Malchus b'chayve krisus leka. So Rav Nachman says that's not necessarily a proof that the Chachamim disagree with Rabbi Chananya, because we know that there's an individual Tana Rabbi Yitzchak who says that Malchus can never act as a surrogate for kares, but we don't necessarily know that everyone agrees with him, and it could be that therefore that Mishnah goes like Rabbi Yitzchak. The Tanya Rabbi Yitzchak Omer chayve krisus b'chlal hayu v'lo miyatzis kares ba'achoso laduno b'kares v'lo b'malchus. That by the parsha of Arayas, it says by every single one of the Arayas you get kares, and then at the end of the parsha it says that anyone who does these things gets kares. So the Gemara goes through asking why, if at the end it says for any of these things you get kares, why did it have to state kares for each individual offense? So you go through each one. For achoso, the reason why it says kares specifically for incest with a sister is to teach you that you only get kares, and malchus is not the appropriate punishment. So maybe that Mishnah that we just quoted only goes according to Rabbi Yitzchak, but the Chachamim would agree that with Rabbi Chananya, that if you give a person malchus, even though it's not mandated necessarily, you are freed from kares. Ravashi Omer Afilu Tema Rabbanan Zeikar Zadonu Bidei Adam Zeikar Zadonu Bidei Shamayim. And Ravashi says, I'll go even further. You don't have to say that Mishnah goes according to Rabbi Yitzchak. You could even say it goes to the Chachamim who say that malchus is something that you can give to someone who's chayiv kares. But the issue is, why does the Mishnah then say that Yom Kippur is punishable only by a heavenly court? It doesn't mean to exclude the possibility of malchus, but it's to tell you that the primary penalty is kares. But if the basin at their discretion give a person who's chayiv kares malchus, so then that will alleviate the kares that was coming to him. Amar Ravada bar Ahava, Amar Rav, halacha Rabbi Chananya ben Gamliel. So he says the halacha is like Rabbi Chananya, that once a person gets malchus, he's freed from kares. So Amar Rav Yosef, man salik le'ila va'asa va'amar. So Rav Yosef says, how do you know? You know what's going on in Shamayim? Like, you know that as soon as a guy gets malchus, he's now in like Flynn with the Ribono Shel Olam, and there's no kares. Have you been up to Shamayim to verify that? So Amar Le Abaye Elahad Amar Rabbi Shua ben Levi Shlosha Dvarim Asu Beisin Shalmata V'Skimu Beisin Shamal Al Yadam Man Salik Le'ila Va'asa Va'amar. He says, well, Rebbe, according to that argument, then how could Rebbe Yeshua ben Levi say that there were three things that were enacted independently by a mortal court without first consulting with Hashem, and after the fact, Hashem agreed with them? So how could Rebbe Yeshua ben Levi know that? Did he go up to Shemaim and verify it? So Ella, kroi kadarshina, nachanami kroi kadarshina. So you must conclude that it's based on the interpretation of psukim that we find in Tanakh. And if we can find psukim in Tanakh that communicate that point, then we don't need to get independent verification from Shemayim. We know it from the psukim. So Gufa. Let's go back to that same. By the way, it's ironic that Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi was known as the person who went up to Shemayim regularly, but Abai is ignoring that fact. Anyway, so Gufa. Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi shlosha dvarim asu based in Shalmata. V'skimu based in Shalmaila al Yadim Eluhain. There were three things that were enacted independently by a mortal court, meaning they didn't consult a Navi before doing it, and only after the fact was it ratified by some heavenly body. So they are as follows: Mikra Megillah, Ushe'ela Shalom B'Shem, V'Havoas Meiser. The three things are the reading of the Megillah. This was done by the Anshe Knesses Hagdola without first consulting a Navi, and afterwards it was ratified by Hashem. The second thing is that in Shlomo HaMelech's time, they instituted, actually, no, I'm sorry, it's much before Shlomo's time, they instituted that when you greet someone, you should use Hashem's name in greeting them, and there's no sort of disrespect to Hashem by using Hashem's name in greeting. And the third one is Havas Meiser, which the Rivan says means two things. That in Ezra's time, Ezra changed the halacha of Meiser in two respects. First, he said that because the Leviim did not come up en masse to help rebuild the temple, and only the Kohanim came, we're taking away some of the privileges of the Leviim of having Meiser, and we're giving it instead to the Kohanim. And furthermore, he said that from now on, not only do you have to take Meiser from produce, but you also have to take it from vegetables as well, midrabanan. And we know that heaven also ratified that. So Mikra Megillah, let's go through the three of them. Mikra Megillah dichsiv kiyamu v'kiblu ha-Yehudim, kiyamu l'mayla ma shekiblu l'mata. So it says by the Megillah reading, it says that they upheld and they accepted. The Jews accepted. So what does that mean? It means that heaven upheld that which the Jews accepted. So that shows us that heaven upheld it. Ushe'ela shalom dichsiv b'shem dichsiv v'hinei Boaz bomi beis lechem vayomer lakoitzrim Hashem imachem. So the first pasuk is we find in the story of Rus that Boaz used Hashem's name to greet the harvesters. Va'omer Hashem imecha gibor hachayil. We also find by Gidon that when an angel came to Gidon, he said to him, God, using Hashem's name, is with you, you mighty warrior. So my Va'omer, why do you need a second pasuk by Gidon? Because v'chi tema Boaz hu da'avid mitaitu mishmai lo iskim al yado tashma va'omer Hashem imcha gibor hachayil. That because you might say, well, how do we know that Hashem ratified Boaz's decision to use Hashem's name? There's no indication. So therefore, we'll bring you a second pasuk that shows that Hashem sent a malach to use Hashem's name to greet Gid'on. Now, Havas Meiser dichsiv haviu es kol ha'ma'asel beisa otzar v'hiteref beveisi uv'chanuni na bezos amar Hashem tzivakos im lo eftach lachem es arubos hashamayim v'arakius lachem bracha ad belidoi. So this pasuk appears in Malachi, and it basically says Malachi is one of the latter prophets living into the Second Temple period. It says that bring all of your tithes, and I promise you, Hashem, that I will reward you by opening up the windows of the heavens and give you a blessing that is beyond enough. So ad belidai, until there's no more ability to say enough. So you see that Hashem ratified all of the Meiser institutions that Ezra made for the Second Temple, because Hashem basically says, if you do as Ezra said, I will give you all of these blessings. My ad belidai, amara rami barav ad sheyivlu sivsosechem ilomar dai. What are those words, until there's no more dai? It means that I'm going to give you so much blessing that you're going to keep saying enough, enough, until you're so tired you can't even say enough anymore. In other words, it's going to be so much blessing, like that some of the smorgasbords, right? Is like, enough food already, enough food already. Amar Rebbe Lazar, begimel mekomo, Sophia Ruach HaKodesh, beveis dino shel Ruach HaKodesh. There are three arenas where the divine presence was there in order to aid a Beis Din in rendering its decision. Beveistino shel Shem, uvebeistino shel Shmuel Haramasi, uvebeistino shel Shlomo. The three courts were Shem's based in, second is Shmuel's based in, and the third one is Shlomo's based in. Beveistino shel Shem dichsiv vayaker Yehuda vayomer tzadka mimeni. Mina yada dilma ki heichi da azal ihu legaba azal nami inish achrino legaba. Yatzas Paschal v'amri mimeni yatsu kevushin. So, in other words, when Yehuda discovers that Tamar is pregnant, Shem was the dayan at the time that they said she should be burned to death, for her prostitution. So, when she sends back the signet and the staff to Yehuda to show that he was intimate with her, how did he know that he was the father? Maybe he could have reasoned that if she's a prostitute, the father could be anybody, right? Because a prostitute has multiple partners. So it must be that there was a heavenly voice that came in from the Beis Din and said, no, Hashem says, this was my decision that something really, truly mysterious should happen through your union. Next, Beveistino shel Shmuel dichsiv hinenu anu vi neged Hashem v'neged Meshicho eshor mi lakachti vayomer lo hashaktanu v'lo ratzosanu vayomer eid Hashem ve'eid Meshicho ki lo mitzasim biyadi me'uma vayomer eid. So this is where the people ask Shmuel for a king. And Shmuel originally is quite offended. He says, why? What's wrong with me? Am I chopped liver? In other words, why do you need a king if I'm here for you? Have I ever taken anything from you? Have I ever oppressed you? And they say, no, God forbid, it's not that. And he makes them swear. They say, swear that, testify that I have never taken anything unduly from you. And they say, yes, we testify. But the word vayomer should have written vayomru. Vayomru mi boile. It should have said, they said, we are witness. So, Yatzis Paschal va'amra ani eid bedavar zeh. So really it was a heavenly voice that emanated from Shmuel's Beis Din and said, I, Hashem, testify that Shmuel never took anything inappropriately from the people. And finally, Beveistino shel Shlomo dichsiv vayan hamelech vayomer tenu lo asayeled achai ve'ameis lo temisu. So he imo. So mina yada dilma iarume me'arma yatzis Paschal ve'amra he imo. Finally, the famous case of the two mothers who said that the baby is mine. So Shlomo said, cut it in half. Shlomo said that the mother who's protested and said, no, don't cut the baby in half, let the baby live and give it to her, she is the right mother. So how did Shlomo know this? How with such certainty? Maybe she was being deceptive there as well. So therefore you see that a heavenly voice must have come forward and told Shlomo that she is the mother. So Amar Rava Mimai. So Rava is nonplussed by all of these arguments that there was a bas kol in all of these three places based on these arguments. Dilma Yehuda kevin dechashiv yarchi v'yomi v'isrami dechazinan mechaskinan v'lochazinan lo mechaskinan. Why did Yehuda assume that he was the father? Because he calculated based on her due date and based on when he and she were intimate, he figured, listen, I was with her at the 9-month mark, 9 months before she's ready to give birth. And we assume that, we don't jump to conclusions that she had multiple partners, pinklach on that day. Because only things that we know we assume, and things that we haven't seen, we have no right to jump to conclusions. So that's why Yehuda thought it was a reasonable conclusion. And Shmuel Nami, Kulu Yisrael Kari Lehu B'Lashon Yechidi, Dichsiv Yisrael No Shabbat Hashem. And furthermore, when it says that he said, we are witness, could mean that all of Bnei Yisrael are referred to in the singular, like we find many times in Nach. Yisrael no Shabbat Hashem, that Israel is saved in the singular by God. So if we see that Bnei Yisrael are referred to in the singular, maybe it's not a heavenly voice that said, I am witness, but Bnei Yisrael said, we are witness. And Shlomo Nami, midahaka merachmasa, v'halaka merachmasa, v'halaka merachmasa. And Shlomo also, it's not because he heard a bas kol, but rather because he saw the compassionate woman clearly is the mother because she doesn't want her child to die. The woman who is discompassionate is not the mother. She doesn't care. So it was based on psychology, not based on a heavenly voice. So the Gemara says, you're right. You've been able to refute all of our arguments. Then how taka do we know that there was Ruach HaKodesh in these three Batei Din? Ella Gemara. It's a Masorah that we have, not based on the stories in Nach, but rather based on a Masorah that we have. And this, what? That's a different case. We'll hold it here for today. Have a wonderful day. Tanur Shel Achnai.